long days and pleasant nights. Welcome everybody to Walk Along the Beams. This is going to be the part 2 to book 3, The Wastelands. Going to introduce everybody. We got Trev right next to me. What's up, Trev? Sitting in the dark. We got Namman. What's up, Namman? Got
Hello,
Steve, the voice right under him.
The White Walker is here.
White Walker.
We got, now I'm going to get this wrong because it's not displaying right, but it's Nornrad82, but now it's Nornrad Art and Comics. Is that right? Probably not. You're muted there. Oh, he's shaking his head. All right.
Rad Art and Comics.
Rad Art and Comics. Okay, I'm sorry. And then we got Philtastic right below me. What's up, Phil?
Hey, everybody.
Philtastic.
Say hi to the few people we got in the chat. They'll trickle in, though. We're just getting started. We got, there was a whole bunch of people first, but I mean, it shows Las Cruces first. So what's up, Las Cruces? And we got Trev sitting right next to me. Long days
and pleasant nights.
We got Tina. What's up, Tina?
Tina.
And we got me, and we got Namman. What's up, Namman?
It was my freaking wrench.
Yeah, I work on it. I get everybody. I just learned that, like literally, like minutes before. Okay. We got Steve. What's up, Steve?
All hail Hydra.
Oh, hell.
Hey, Kenneth.
And last but not least, we got Kenneth. What's up, Kenneth? All right, so we are tackling part 2 of the Wastelands. You know, this is going to be technically 216 to the end of the book. Just like, no, I'm not going to do any kind of like background. We did that the first episode, so we're just going to straight jump into it. So this chapter title is like 2 headings. We have Blood, a heap of broken images, town, and Katet. We start out the second half of the book with Jake now on his side, on their side. We meet Oi, the Billy Bumbler, and make it to the river crossing, greeting with kindness, food, and knowledge from the riverfolk. After a huge meal, they palaver and catch up their stories. They continue on to the city of Lud and blame the pain. My first question that's going to go into this is, what role does Jake return play in the narrative, and how does it affect Roland and the quartet as a whole? Let's go with, I'm going to go with, since Aaron was missing from last time, let's go with you, Aaron.
His role, man, you got me scared already with your questions.
Yeah,
Here we go.
I love that.
Redemption? Like, he's to show, like, I guess he's the hope in the story, maybe, because like everything's been so bleak too, and so like he's like the lighter side of the story, I guess, and like he's also our eyes through our way to relate to how Roland's world is and everything.
I like that. Let's go with Trev. What you got to add to this, Trev?
What was the question again?
It is, what role does Jake return play in the narrative? How does it affect Roland and the quartet as a whole?
I think it's definitely redemption for Roland. Something that, you know, was bothering him, eating at him, that he ended up fixing. I think Jake is going to be, he's very calculated. He's more calculating, I think, than anybody else in the group besides Roland. So he kind of adds that aspect to it, and then with the riddles, I knew that was going to make a big play in it.
Namman, let's go with you. What you got?
Oh gosh.
And if you don't have an answer, that's fine.
Yeah, I'm just basically giving Roland a second chance. Yeah.
I like it. Let's go, Phil.
I think more than redemption, because there certainly is, of course, that opportunity that pops up. I think overall growth for the whole quartet, and just how each of them are adapting to one another, and I think in ways feeding off of Roland. And while that's not apparent right away, you see that more towards the end, I feel. It also has me thinking, I know that we've seen Jake die and come back before, I'm starting to think he might be a little bit more experienced than we know, or even that he himself knows.
I like that. I like that. All right, Steve, what you got for me?
It's a rebirth. So Jake saved Roland's life, and Roland saved Jake's life because they were both going insane. So it's kind of a rebirth. Now he's back in the group, and yeah, he's got the touch, so he knows when things feel right, and he
I like
just
to call it the
rolls with
shine.
it, right?
Yeah, the
he's got
shine.
he's got the shine.
He's got the shine.
The shine.
That's it. Big time shine. And he's going to be playing like the son figure to Roland, I think, because he idolizes the hell out
Stephen
of
King always does father-son stories. Like
And that's
father and son
basically it.
is pinnacle of
That's
Stephen King.
that's kind of where I was going with this. Keep on going. Keep on.
Yeah, it's the father-son thing. He's going to be an apprentice to the dad, and then he'll eventually take the big guns one day, hopefully. That's what Roland probably thinks, but he doesn't know.
Hey, Brian.
Right?
Hey, Brian.
I want to say it's a lot of that, right? I mean, redemption, of course. I mean, it's one way to King to relieve himself to the fans, right? To redeem himself in that regard, because we all know that first decision to kill off Jake wasn't well liked. I mean, that was a question that I got first off from Trev in this book. Are we gonna get more Jake? Like, I mean, he's a fan favorite, so the fact that you can have the ability to write him back into the story, cohesively, and it makes sense is kind of a beautiful thing, right? Another thing I'd like to add is that softness. I mean, you got Eddie and Susanna, and they're in this romantic thrall, but it's a different type of like softness that isn't in the group, because I mean, we all know, well, a lot of people know that King believes that children's imagination is the key to like a lot of things. So I mean, having that childlike imagination, that like you said, that he's calculated in a different way, I believe adds to a whole. I love all that though. Salvation, I would say, is a big one though, especially with Roland. Like when we get to Gasher and that whole like chase scene and everything. Like, I mean, you can't tell me that's honest. So a question I got right after this that kind of leads into this, and it features our new member, right? We got to meet Oi, one of my personal favorite members of the group, the Cot's Head. So the importance of solitude comes. Wait, say it again.
I'm gonna say Oi is just Oi.
Oi.
He just has to be himself. He's great.
I mean, I've always like it just
He
sidetracked.
ain't got
Just
no drama.
right? Just the explanation of Oi, his characteristics, how he looks and stuff like that. It always like, even though he's supposed to be alien and somewhat similar, it always kind of felt right, kind of thing. Like he was describing something that we could find in the world, kind of thing. Okay, so my question is, the importance of solitude comes up a lot. Is that Oi's purpose for Jake? Everybody in this group seems to has a yin and yang almost, Eddie and Susanna at this point. I mean, we get to a certain point in the story. I don't even know if you'll notice that they start calling them the Deans. It's not even Eddie and Susanna anymore. Is Oi that purpose for Jake? Is he that continuance need of?
I think he could be that purpose for all of them. Really, like he's kind of that purpose for the whole quartet. Like he's kind of the quartet's hope. Like the quartet's like when the quartet's feeling down, Oi can help bring them up. Like he's the.
I like that.
When everything's bad and low, like they can still look at Oi and be like, "We could make it. We got to make this, or maybe there's something we could do, or I don't know." Like I'm trying to think too. What else?
I do like that though, the hope. And that actually comes up like 3 different times during the reading, especially with Eddie, and so I can say, yeah, I see that. Let's go Steve next.
Well, every team needs a mascot or a cheermeister.
Hey,
So he is the cheermeister. And he's kind of a reject like all the rest of them, right? Thrown out of his group, because he didn't fit in, because he was, doing his own thing. So, yeah, I think, he's the little mascot of the group and definitely a help for Jake. to make Jake feel more like a boy, you know, so he can have his
Yeah, he
fun.
is important for Jake.
You know, like every boy needs his little puppy dog or his dog, right? That's part of his
The
mental
dynamic,
growth.
yeah, it works.
Yeah.
Responsibility, that kind of stuff. All right, Trev, what you got to it?
Nothing really besides what they've said. I mean, I think he's going to serve the purpose of he's part of the quartet, but if they come across some people, I don't know if he'll be looked at as part of the quartet. You know, he can kind of like go his own way and not really be captured easy. I mean, kind of like how they used him to help Jake.
Hmm.
He kind of has that, I don't know, different purpose.
Well, he definitely showed his purpose real quick when we got to that
And
occasion.
and he's actually probably the first one that we've seen that just has unfettered loyalty.
Yeah.
Mm. Namman, what you got? What you got?
It always definitely a teaching tool for Roland with the Jake and the always loyalty to each other. Is reminding Roland what the innocent boy, you know, loyalty and love and unconditional love between the two.
I
And
love it.
remember when Roy was in trouble and Jake risked everything to not let him go, not let him fall.
Hmm.
You know, that parallel. I think that probably taught Roland, that how Roland had to
Taught
make
him
a
what real sacrifice, man.
he
Yeah.
had,
That's a
he had, he had a
beautiful
sacrifice.
freaking sentiment too. That's
He
perfect.
Yeah.
celebrated that sacrifice, but Jake was not willing to sacrifice.
Absolutely.
I love it now.
Nice.
And Trev, Phil, you got anything to add on to that?
The only thing I would add, I think it's kind of interesting that, and this didn't kind of pick up on until the end, that he's the only other character besides Roland who is from Midworld, from this other place. Everybody else is from New York.
Yeah.
Mm.
And it makes me think too, just saying it out loud, because all of the other three characters are from New York at different time periods.
Mhm.
We're led to believe when we get maybe towards the middle of this whole chapter or this whole reading
Saga.
that there you go, that he's perhaps from a much later time period than Roland as well.
That's interesting too.
That is great.
I mean, everybody has great valid points, and I love that you led that there, because we do get a lot of that during this reading, where we learn that Roland does not believe he's a traditional part of the quartet because he's not from their wins or wares, right? I mean, so that makes sense with Oi, right? And then often during the reading, that comes up too. Whether, I mean, Jake asked it first right off the bat: is Oi considered a part of our quartet? Roland kind of muddles a yes. I wouldn't say he directly says it, but he's like, hey, he kind of looks like he got kicked out of his crew, so that kind of, but like as the book goes, we quickly see that Roland sees that he is the direct member of the quartet. Like he's there on purpose. He was always supposed to be there, kind of thing. So it's kind of weird, especially you bring that up, that Oi being from Midworld, Roland being from Midworld, but Roland's reasoning being that he's from Midworld, he's not part of the traditional quartet thing. I like that. Very interesting. All right. Let's see. What do the people of River Crossing serve to the story? Was this really needed? And I'm gonna go with a new reader, because let's go with Phil on this one. Let's start with you.
Remind me.
So
What
what do the
I'm
people?
trying to think.
River Crossing is the very beginning, and it's like this small little, like, I wouldn't even say it's a town. It's like a hub
I
of a
couldn't
town.
help. I don't mean to interrupt. I
Well,
couldn't
all
help
those
but
old
think of
people.
Rivendell from Lord of the Rings when they got.
Hey,
I couldn't help.
yeah. So River Crossing is this small little town that they come to, like right before they get to the bridge with Lud. and they're greeted by a bunch of elderly people. They're it's nothing but kindness. It's kind of the opposite of Toll, right? It's almost the same dynamic of Toll. This time, minus, I mean, Roland has a group versus him being solo, but then him coming into town, and he's greeted by these river folk, and they're they notice that, that they actually use a phrase. Somebody might remind me. I think it's harriers.
That's the word, harriers.
Harriers. Okay, so they're mistaken as harriers at first, and a harrier is just supposed to be like a looter, outlaw type of criminal kind of thing. But then they notice that guns, that Roland has the guns of Eld and stuff like that, and he's a gunslinger, and the whole dynamic changes. The river people, they greet him, they grant them knowledge on the town of Lud. They tell him about the grays and the pubes. They warn them about Jake, about his age, that he's going to be like, well, basically like gold. And they're basically given a meal. It's so vague. You don't even remember that, huh?
I was trying to think. Was there something like they were? I kind of remember towards the end of it, there was discussion whether they should stay and help them or not because they were too feeble. Was that?
I think Jake does bring that up, and it's discussed quickly, with Roland, that like, nah, there wouldn't be no point to it, kind of thing.
They didn't have time, because if they filled them with one thing, then they would have to help
Eddie
them with something else.
That was
have to help them with something else. That would
that was like
get to the tower. So they were like, no.
Eddie does a good job of explaining to Jake, why they couldn't stay and help them, because every time they stay and help them,
they would need something else.
Next day is not going to be any easier to leave.
They're also, Roland pretty much explained it as well, is that they were all elderly, but they had been living their lives before the quartet got there, so they would continue living their lives the same once the quartet left. I mean, there was no serious need of gunslingers, so to say. Maybe farmers, maybe workers, something like that, but not really gunslingers, kind of thing. So back to my question: what do the people of River Crossing serve to the story, and why was this needed?
I mean, to be honest with you, I hadn't put a whole lot of thought into them. I'm thinking, well, first, it's kind of a reminder that they're not alone in Midworld. One thing I've kind of noticed throughout the story,
that's good.
Even when they're in New York City, one of the most populated cities in the world, it does kind of feel like it's not as full as it should be. And I don't know if that's just the narration or just, what I'm picturing as I'm listening to it, but you don't get the feeling that there's a whole lot of life necessarily in these worlds. So I could see that serving a purpose. I also think it's kind of a reminder that, hey, there's we could stay and help these elderly people, but we have a greater mission to accomplish. It's almost like a entrapment to kind of get them off course.
I like it, and I'd like to touch base that you touched on something that I hadn't really thought about. All three of our Earthling characters, right? They're from New York, and like you said, it's a big bustling cities, right? So, I mean, something I hadn't thought about would be the isolation of missing all those people, not having those people around, and what life would be like all of a sudden not having those people all around, or I mean, that in itself I could imagine drive somebody a little crazy, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
What's up, Ambient Storm? All right, let's go with you, Namman. What do you got to add to this? What do the people?
Norman said it pretty good when he say remind him of Rivendell people, those elves. I look at it as like a little oasis in the desert. A little place to rest and not only rest your body but your soul and while you are going up to the Dark Tower, these are the last remnant of good people that you need to, you can save them. If you could try to save them momentarily, but it reminds you that, hey, you need to look further. These are aging people. They are dying people, and you really need to save the. I mean, you have to have a big picture in mind. That's the reminder for. Those are the reminder for. I mean, that's what they remind the gunslingers, So it's a little oasis. They needed a place to rest their soul.
I like that. Trev, let's go with you. What you got? What you got?
It was the save point.
The save
They had
point.
to
Yeah, I
go
like
there.
that.
It was a save point. They got not only their body rejuvenated from the food, but their soul. I mean, those people pretty much acted like Roland was the Messiah.
Yeah.
You know,
Hey, that okay. Let's touch base on that. Go a little further on that. That's kind of that might be where I'm headed.
yeah, they were basically worshiping him. They hadn't seen a gunslinger, only told in tales. And then his whole party was asking him questions that most of them couldn't answer.
No, what you got besides the Rivendell thing?
Yeah, so it's where Trev was just about to touch on is we saw how important, like, we were kind of given hints like how gunslingers were treated like royalty, and like when you
Yes.
get to that town, you really get to see, okay, these guys are like more than royalty. Like these guys were like prophets. These people really looked up to the gunslingers and as like heroes. And so I think that also kind of put the importance on the quartet. Like the quartet even got to see that. So
And that's kind of what this
maybe they
question is
kind of
leading,
got
right?
to realize
That's kind of what I was
their
going
own
to say.
self-realization of, okay, we're important.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
them getting to see that how they acted toward Roland gave them courage. I
Mhm.
think going into Lud, they were rejuvenated, not only their bodies but their souls, and had that courage.
Their hopes, yeah.
Yeah, their
Like
hopes.
I mean, I'd love that you that was kind of the purpose
confidence.
between this question, because it's really the first time in Midworld that we get to see not only like kind of good people and how they react to a gunslinger, this force that's supposed to be within this world, right? And we also get to see the quartet and their first, like kind of reaction to how normal people would have reacted to the gunslingers, right?
Yeah, it's their first credential for Roland, isn't it? There,
Mhm.
The
To
Quartet was going.
confirm.
Is Roland really our leader? Is he really our leader? He seems
Is he
like a
just
very
telling us stories, or
yeah, but then you
is he
see these
lying?
people who gave him credential, a lot more credential than than what their experience told them. So
Steve, what you got to add to this? I left a little out. I left a little out, buddy.
Yep. So, yes, the quartet, Jake, Suzanne, and Eddie had no idea what Roland really was. What the hell is a gunslinger? What do they do? This was a very important. They needed to see what he is and how he is received, and more importantly, how he reacts with them and how he interacts with them. This gives them the first glimpse of how in-world politics works, because the gunslingers are politicians, they're judge, they're jury, and executioner. They are the whole package, not just prophets, but they provide.
I
Judge
am the
Dredd.
law.
Judge Dredd.
They do it all, baby. Judge Dredd. A
Yep.
bunch of Judge Dredds is walking through the world. But the quartet needed to see how he.
They were even more than Judge Dredd's. They were like Judge Dredd's bosses.
Yeah. They were like Judge Dredd, Jedi Masters,
They
and
made the
Buddha.
rules, man. But yeah, they needed to see how he would carry himself in this group. So yeah, it was very important for that, because now they really see what a gunslinger is all about, because it's also training for them as well. Because now they see how they need to handle themselves and carry themselves, just like Roland. So set the example and follow along.
In this one short conversation with the river crossing people, we had Roland display skills which we hadn't seen. We had mentioned in some of the flashbacks, but we've seen some of his diplomacy. He was literally like coursing the conversation the way he wanted to do it without having to actually physically state anything to change the conversation. In this small amount of time, not only that, but we had one of the newest members of the group, right, Susanna. which at the end of the last book was talking about killing this dude because, I mean, all bringing this, okay, she literally like had a total like 360 and shit, going back to the whole like JFK conversation and understanding what that could have meant, JFK being the last gunslinger and this and that, like seeing Roland in a completely different light. So it's everything that all y'all touched on. It was a safe point because that's exactly what it was. They got a good fresh hop meal. They even got the offer to sleep. They got encouragement. They got some pride out of it. They got to see their I mean, at that point, yes, I would say Roland was a tutor, like kind of teacher, this kind of thing. No, at this point, it was more like master. That this evolution, that I think the whole group, the Oi, kind of there too. I think always happens a little later, but I mean, this was that point for the group to see that they were being led by someone that could lead, kind of thing.
And there's not a lot of high points in this story. In this whole journey, there's not a lot of high points. So when you hit these high points, it's important for the whole concept.
Yeah, they are. Every smile that we get from Roland.
I do wanna mention that. Remember when Jake was concerned that, hey, why don't we stay and help them, right? And so they were sad leaving them, and they imagined that these people would have a sad ending. But I mean, I want to tell you at the end of this book, there's actually a happy ending for them. So if you guys got that, there's actually a happy ending for them.
Kinda. I might need to hear that backstage now. I mean, I don't know if I remember.
Huh?
Yeah, I thought it was more of a cliffhanger type of ending, to be honest with you.
No.
You talking about love?
Because well, I'm going to spoil it now because their main concern is those outlaws, right? And
the Harriers, yeah.
Harriers and City of Loot and all that stuff, right? That's their main concern, right? Because they always come and destroy their town and stuff. But that's gone. And they're safe. They're
True.
safe.
I can see that. That's true.
Yeah,
So,
that's actually something I hadn't even thought about, but that is a good valid point, that their biggest fears were Harriers, the Greys, and the Pubes, and after the end of the book, we kind of see that that's not a factor anymore.
and then and the Mono says, hey, yeah, they're going to exist for a while because when the nuclear whatever is,
yeah, it's gonna go. The wind's gonna go the other way. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Okay, so I do have one more question for this little, and Aaron kind of like touched on it a little bit, but this is towards the whole book. Can y'all note all the Tolkien references? Now I know in this passage, in this part of the book alone, shit, like I mean, you're talking about almost every scene's a Tolkien reference. It's almost like anybody want to note any noticeable references that they caught? I know like Aaron touched base on Rivendell being the river crossing, which is 100% true, to the point where Eddie even thinks they're going to see elves in Lude after they leave river crossing.
Well, even Susanna said at one point something like it was out of the Tolkien book.
Mm-hmm.
Which that would have been like
right there. That was breaking the fourth wall. that wasn't
every literary
source. That was just breaking the fourth wall.
Here's some noticeable ones though. The whole like chase scene with Nasher. That's the goblin scene from the Hobbit. Once they go down in the goblin caves, you got like, I mean, I want to say in this part of the book that we read in the 200 pages, I want to say there's at least 6 major like Tolkien references. I think this is the book where he like ramped up, hey, this is gonna be my version of Tolkien, and I don't know that.
There's a little voice and big voice,
the whole riddle challenge. Anybody recognize that from the Hobbit and Smeagol and.
Yeah, so what is Gasher? Is Gasher a Balor or is he Smeagol or what? So around the bridge you shall not pass with Gandalf there. on the
No,
bridge.
Gasher would be one of the would be I forget, I'm drawing a blank at his name, but he's that orc. Burukai, he's the one that was working for
Oh
Saruman.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Okay.
remember they he literally
Carries off
grabs
the
like,
halflings.
yeah, he literally grabs a hobbit and takes it to the wizard, and the wizard's like, "That's not the hobbit I want."
Yeah. These are not the droids you're looking for.
It wasn't really like a huge, but there's a lot of Tolkien references, within this book specifically. All right, so let's see. Make sure I don't have any more questions right here. All right, that is it for there. Let's move on. So we got the next big part, and this part of the book is like the biggest part of the part we read. I want to say it's like 100 pages alone. But Bridge and City, we come across an old WW. Huh?
No,
Oh,
saying
Scotty.
hi to Scotty.
We come across an old World War II plane and David Quick. We reach a bridge of the Send and come across a familiar scene getting the better of them. We meet Gasher. Jake is kidnapped and brutally taken to the TikTok Man. The group is split. Roland and Oy after Jake, the Deans after Blaine. We meet the Pubes with Eddie and Susan and are taken to the cradle of Blaine. Roland, relying heavily on Oy, tracks Eddie to the bomb shelter with the help of Blaine. Roland saves Jake, but not before Jake hurts the TikTok Man. Roland and the quartet board a talking train, and we meet an old friend. There's a shitload in this whole little like.
A lot.
Yeah, there was a lot, and this is one of the best parts of the book. I mean, the dynamic of how King shifts between like the Deans and then Roland and Eddie and Gasher and Jake. I love it. All right, so let's get into it. The first question will be thoughts of the Pubes and the Greys. We're kind of given like a brief description of what they are, of like thoughts on how they came to be. There is no like extreme real definition. There, like I said, we get some talk from the river crossing people, and we get some within the city of Lud. But I mean, there is no like real definition on why we have the Pubes and the Greys. And I'm gonna go. Let's go, Steve, since you're right there. What are your thoughts on the Pubes and the Greys? And this can be thoughts like as far as dynamics. This could be thoughts on how they got started, why they're called the Pubes and the Greys.
Well, I think the Greys are because of Mr. Quick there, because his plane, he was probably flying in World War II and went through one of those thinnies, ends up in Midworld, lands the thing and says, hey, look, I can take over this damn city. And it was probably already in the ruins to begin with. And he started up his little Nazi group there, and they called themselves the Greys, gray uniforms. So the one faction is the Nazis. Now the Pubes, I never really thought about, who they were or what they were. They might have just been the city folk that were rebelling against the Nazi insurgency there, and then just, starts a war. That's my thoughts on it.
Let's go, Phil.
I have the only other aspect I can add to this I thought was interesting. This constant kind of warring and everything. I know at one point Gasher like kind of shows, hey, look, we're going down into the sewers, and it's because they all think that there's monsters here, so we could go here and we don't have to be bothered by them. So I don't know if it's kind of a distinction of each group sees each other as outsiders almost. You know what I'm kind of saying? I do. I feel like the Greys in general look very much down on the Pubes.
Oh.
Hey, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of saw it as almost like another way to show kind of like class differences.
I like that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Let's go, Aaron. Let's go. What you got?
It's just another example, I guess, of the world has moved on. The Greys were that's how I saw it. Like Steve said, they were just the people that were the remnants of the city that was left there, and the Greys came in and started the war with them to take it over, and you're just there seeing what's left, and they're still there fighting over it.
Fighting over a corpse of a city.
Namman.
uh, since pube, I just thought pubes were just people of puberty, right? I think of them as orphans, like when in the Warrior movie. You guys seen the Warrior movie?
Yeah, and the Warriors.
Yeah.
They
Orphans,
do remind me
and
of
then
that.
like
Bunch of
orphans,
teenagers.
the gang of orphans, and getting they're too old to be called orphans now, but
Yeah.
and that they value new children and all that, to restart the because they're thinking of, hey,
Yeah.
we need to think of next generation, and that's why they value a kid like Jake in it, yeah. So yeah, it's a both dying group of people, desperately trying to you know to revive the
Fight for
dying
what's left.
city, yeah, it's fighting,
Yeah.
fighting with what they got left, and they don't know how the technology works because it's like a lost children. They don't know, what
You
their
don't really
parents
know what.
so
Yeah,
the teaching hasn't been taught from one generation to the next. It's lost
Yeah.
generation. Yeah, that's
Hundreds of generations we learn because they're talking about the machines are like supposed to be thousands of years old, and the people who live in Lude, or I call it Lud, but Lude makes more sense. But the people in Lude that like you said, it's missing that somewhere in there they were missing the generation to keep on teaching, and it's just not there anymore. Let's go with Trev. What you got to add to this?
Besides what everybody else said, just that they've been fighting so long. I don't even know if they know that they're fighting the right people. It's kind of like just fighting in the desolation. But my mind kind of went to a different thing. Seeing that airplane got me thinking about, Hitler had the greatest scientists, and he was trying to time travel and all that kind of stuff. So it makes me kind of go down the path of, what if the Man in Black was responsible for Hitler's empowerment, and somehow that's some of them came over to Midworld in an
I
agreement.
love that.
that's
something
cool.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. Yeah, okay. This is one of the reasons why we need you new readers on here, because you're seeing angles that I never would have thought about. I can tell you the first time I came across the plane, it was one of the glorious moments within this series, because it like opens your mind in like different ways, because like at this point in the book, you're looking for like super technology. You know what I'm saying? You're either looking for like mid-world stuff like Oi, or you're looking for like technology stuff, and all of a sudden King throws this like old World War plane with Nazi signa. It's like, well, what's with
But
this? Like,
yeah, but I
they did
like
mention,
how,
they did
and
mention Bermuda Triangle, so in the being a portal.
and with Eddie, yeah.
and I don't mean to mix or spoil anything ahead, but how they were talking about, was the big Blaine, little Blaine,
Hmm.
and
Continue.
it was the screen. The screen was like warning them. Don't wake him up. Don't wake him up.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that was one of the scarier parts to me. I was like, oh crap, what are they about to wake up? And I just think like how you guys were talking about how how King was mixing in the World War II stuff, but at the same time, this is 1989, 91, or 90, 91, and he's already thinking ahead of like small computer systems controlling bigger ones, because Blaine, controlled the whole city. So like that's way ahead of its time, really. Like, thinking how we got AI systems small AI systems controlling big things.
Well, that's one of the significance, like
Yeah, Scotty, thanks.
night, Scotty. That
He's
to
done
me
that
that
several times, I think, where
yeah,
he
yeah,
says something or he shows something. And you're like, wow, that's like revolutionary from whenever he wrote this.
Way ahead of its time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
and not just this book, and several other books. I mean, you're talking about in the book I read recently, the Long Walk. There's some technology that's talked about within that book that was probably sci-fi at that time that exists readily, easily today, like our Apple Watches and stuff like that. And that was all the way back in '78. You know,
Maybe King went
match.
through a door.
There you go.
Aha!
I mean,
Um, I lost my place.
See, the one thing I wanted to add, Aaron, you mentioned was big. What's the name of the thing?
Big Blaine.
Big Blaine and Little Blaine. It was funny that you mentioned with World War II. Yeah, not at first, but after what happens, I took that as, oh, maybe that's an analogy for Fat Man and Little Boy.
Explain further.
Mom?
Well, I can't do it without spoiling the end of the book. Do you want to do that now?
Yeah, we can talk. I mean, since we've read the book, we can talk about the
So-
book. I mean,
Towards the end, and when he this train has become sentient, and it says, "Yeah, I'm just gonna basically blow everything up, more or less." The fact that there's a big version, a little version of these things that basically are acting like nuclear weapons, I almost took it, because there was a lot of World War II talk in it, as an analogy of the two atomic bombs that were dropped on Japan, Fat Man and Little Boy.
that's something I didn't think about, but that's actually something good that you touch about, because it's something in my mind that I've never actually had an answer to, besides what's planted in the book, because the answer in the book is there. It makes sense, like that Blaine is going crazy, that these, schizophrenia, and little Blaine is like, just now it's a delusional like part of his psyche or whatever. But I like that, like that's what King was really doing with it, in the background. I hadn't even thought of that. He does that a lot, like the long walk is an analogy of the long walk in real life. You know what I mean? The walk of tears and shit. No, but okay. So back to the pews and grays. Because there's a lot of discussion. The book leads it to believe that the grays were there first at first. Like when we're in River Crossing, the way they make it sound is the pubes come later. And then as we get like to the TikTok man, it's specifically explained that no, they came with David Quick, and David Quick kind of like knew some technology and started taking over. And so the pubes, like, it seems like that they were there in the get-go. Okay, one thing that nobody touched on, within 2 cities in this book, it's lacking something. And it's heavily implied that they would want one thing out of Roland's group. And that one thing is taken. It's like you. We know, like, okay, constant readers will know that this will be a like ongoing theme with youth, with kids being absent from certain things, and this is kind of the beginning of it. But I wondered if the constant readers kind of picked up on the lack of youth, and what we know on the lack of youth with the pubes and the grays, especially with the river crossing and how they talk about the youth specifically and how it's treated like gold.
Yeah, they
And
could be traded for gold.
But okay, so back to the pubes and grays. I mean, that's kind of like something that's very foreshadowing, because we do see children in Toll, even though everybody died in Toll. But this is the second and third city we've come to in Midworld, and there's no children. Period. There's, we even see the pubes, and at first it even sees that the pubes look like they're young. What's up, Marks at Yarns at Crafts? But we quickly see that the pubes, it's just all dress, that they, it's like a dwarf, or I don't know the correct term, but a little person, right?
Little people.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then we even kind of see that, like, I mean, the big part about it is it's not even like, and somebody, I don't know who touched base on it, but like what they were fighting, I think it was Trev that said it, but they were talking about what the pubes and grays, and at this point it's not even discussed what they're fighting over, what they want, why they're trying to kill each other. We know that they want each other dead. It's to the point where it's graffitied like all over the place, right? But there
We know
never
the
is a
TikTok
time.
man, he wants control of those computers, because there's
Right.
obviously some kind of technology or weapons or something that he's after down there. and he
And
might
how
have
I
found it over the time, and he just doesn't have access to the controls and the
okay, so
crazy
like
AI.
riddle me this, right? So we get to like the end of the book, and yeah, I mean we're jumping ahead, right? But riddle me this, like he wanted to control these computers and stuff like this, but somehow in his great scheming or something, he was working with Blaine. So that means at some point, TikTok Man had to either have figured out like how to get to Blaine, like how to convince him to like work with the Greys, because it specifically stated that Blaine literally turds on the God drums for the Greys through TikTok Man.
The
Like I would
Velcro
like,
fly.
Oh, that
yeah,
was else. Like so, and the God drums was ZZ Top, right?
Yep. Velcro fly, baby.
yeah, Velcro
Right.
Fun. Did anybody actually go listen to that song and listen to
Oh
the
God,
drum
yeah,
beat?
tons of times. I
I
was
mean,
listening
I
to
know
it
the
as I
song. Yeah,
read. I was listening to it.
Yeah.
Trev or Phil or
No.
No,
y'all need to go like just listen to that song one time and like
I'm
just
sure
pay
I've heard it. My
attention to.
dad loves that band.
Yep.
Oh,
So
it's a
do
good.
I.
It's one of their off songs. Not a lot of people didn't. Most people only know this song unless you're a diehard ZZ Top fan or you're a Dark Tower fan, because this book right here. Me specifically, I knew ZZ Top. I've met them 3 or 4 times living in Texas, but it wasn't a song that I was familiar with until I made it to this part in the Dark Tower series. And ever since then, it's just been like a staple song within like every day. Every time I hear it, it just reminds me of the drums. Um, all right, so let's get to our next question.
There was something I'm gonna try to remember in a second. I don't know why
Ah,
I'm
go for
forgetting.
it.
There was something with the music that I wanted to say. I don't know.
Well,
Keep
it's a
going.
part. It's
I'll
part
remember.
of the.
I'll remember when you keep
I want to say
talking.
this is reflective on another Stephen King story. I don't know who has read Cell, but we kind of see this kind of same like what if or story, like what if like all of a sudden you had this crazy message that like humans got a hold of and it just made them go crazy, and that's what the book Cell is about. So it's kind of like funny that like that it started in this book and he kind of because it's not the same. It's not a music beat that does it. It's our
It's
cell
always on
phones.
the phone. I read that
Yeah, and
book.
it's a good book, but there's a like a message that comes from the phone, and it basically puts everybody in like a primal state, like you
And what
know,
happened in Tull?
yeah, basically. Hey, do it again. What's up, Callie?
Kelly
Okay.
Comics.
All right, so my next question, this is gonna be a big one, guys. During the bridge scene, this eerily echoes the gunslinger, where Jake falls to his death. Compare these two scenes. How do they define Roland's evolution? What were the changes that we saw within this? I mean, it was specifically set up to mimic the gunslinger, right? We come to this bridge. They didn't have to go to this bridge. It's even mentioned twice before they get to the bridge that, hey, you want a detour? To the point where Roland asked Jake, Roland, the leader, is like, hey, Jake, you want a detour? And Jake's like, nah, we got to. We got to do the bridge because of Blaine. I know Blaine's there. So, like, define the, compare these two scenes and how do they define Roland's evolution? Let's go with, I'm going to give Namman first. What's up, Namman?
Did I mention this already? It,
You did briefly. That's why.
yeah, the Oi. I mean the way Jake saved Oi, right? It's not like a. It wasn't like a Roland where uh, he goes, "Hey, I gotta let you go because I have to go after the Men in Black." But and Jake was just as uh, driven to go and find the plane, but he was willing to risk all that for Oi, and he even gave up his hands to Oi to save Oi. I think that probably taught a lesson for Roland.
I agree. Like you stated it right the first time, and like I'll agree with it. It was like the demonstration of the proper way to sacrifice. It wasn't sacrificing somebody; it was sacrificing, a piece of him, kind of thing, to save something he loved, kind of thing. Um, but what about what changes do we see in Roland though? Because that's Jake and Oi.
Yeah, but
Uh,
I think Roland goes, "Hey, look, I'm no matter what, I'm coming after you." So,
but,
and
the promise, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and he's not saying, oh, I don't know. He's not saying maybe if the tower gets in the way, I don't know. He's not saying that. He's saying
Jake's going that way, and Roland's like the tower. No, there you go, Will. All right, Trev, what you got to add to this?
I think he pretty much just saw Jake without thinking about it risk himself for Oi, and he bit. I thought it was kind of cool. He bit down on his hand, kind of paralleled Roland losing his hand whenever he found Eddie and Susanna.
Good.
Yeah, just him knowing him progressing from letting Jake fall all the way through, getting to trust his quartet, and sacrificing himself for it.
Love it. I love it. Let's go. Another new read. Let's go, Phil.
I thought comparatively it was like, at first I thought it was more like Jake saying, no, this is how you are supposed to care for the people in your party. But one thing that always kind of threw me off a little bit about the original bridge scene versus now too, even though Jake, fell off the first bridge, or Roland threw him off, I didn't get a sense initially that Jake was like, oh no, I'm gonna die. Remember he says something like, hey, we're gonna be in another world. Now Jake is so determined to not let anybody, fall through. So it's like there's not that we're going to another world kind of safety net answer. So I don't know why necessarily that is particularly with Jake, but it's just one detail that stuck out to me.
I like it. Let's go, Aaron. What you got to add to this?
I kind of thought about how before the tower was all that mattered to Roland, and now you really see that it isn't just the tower. Like Roland is becoming a father to Jake, getting that father role, really fill in the father's shoes, like putting in the shoes, saying, okay, like, I can't let Jake down. I have to save him.
Like, let's go, Steve.
Oh, Roland's learning his lessons, is he? So the first one there, yeah, he's just doesn't care who dies, so he can get to his lovely tower. Actually, in that case, there he had to get to his meeting with the man in black, and he had to sacrifice Jake. But now Jake has got a little bit of a transformation too, because he's died twice. He's kind of fearless now, and they even said that when he's crossing that bridge, he was absolutely fearless going across. He had like a new outlook on life. And then when Oi fell, he didn't even hesitate, man. He was like right on him immediately. And then, of course, Roland was the same thing. He didn't hesitate either. He reacted instantly and went after the boy and Oi and saved them both. So,
I love that.
It's cool. But it's also Ka. Ka is now teaching Roland. Like, look.
Ka and Kev, right?
We got obvious signs here, buddy. Just listen to the signs and do what you're supposed to do. We're giving you a chance after chance after chance, and you keep screwing it up. Come on, learn your damn lesson.
How about the dynamic that this is the first time we get to see Jake in physical action? He's not worrying about himself. He's not protecting himself. He's not keeping himself out of danger. This is the first time we see Jake physically kind of promote himself like a gunslinger, right? I mean, he literally not only crosses the bridge in fire form fashion, right? But not only that, but he's the one that notices that Oi is about to go over. He's able to catch him before he falls over. All that. I mean, you're talking about all that was that split second speed stuff that we've seen from Roland. We see from a couple other people, which surprising from one character later on, right? But I love all that. I think for one, the biggest message is lesson learned, right? And that this is King kind of reiterating to the reader, hey, I'm sorry. He did that. I promise. I kind of promise. Maybe promise that I won't do that again. I mean, so I mean, it's really that moment where he's you know because Phil. I think Phil touched it, and I was going to ask this, but Phil brought it up just freely. But you had mentioned that you didn't think Jake was going to die in the scene. It wasn't set up that way. The tension, let me ask the new readers this: did you think anybody else would perish, like Oi? I mean, right before this, he had the dream with Blaine getting hit by, Oi getting hit by the train. So I mean, it's heavily implied, and multiple times through this reading, not just at this occasion, that Oi was not going to make this book. Like even Roland says it, like specifically when he sends him into the bunker, like, nah, I mean, he's gonna get the job done, but he ain't gonna make it out. I'm sorry, I mean, um, I don't know.
Whenever he sent him in there, that was the first time that he actually said something back to Roland that Roland didn't say to him. So I was like, oh, he's not a parrot.
That not the first time he does before then. It's actually with the Gasher scene. The first time he mentioned something besides something that somebody mimicked, it's with Gasher when he's kidnapping Jake, and Oi actually says the word asshole, and nobody else says it except for Jake. He just screams it. He's like asshole as he grabs. I'm glad that you caught that. That because that is a big thing that comes up is his intelligence. Like, who is this new character that's this part of this group right now? What does he pertain? What can he do? Kind of thing. And a parrot. I mean, they're cool and everything, but they only go so far. You know what I'm saying?
I didn't think anyone was going
Roland
to die
did
because
try
it
to
was the beginning to an arc.
Roland
Wait,
did try to sacrifice Oi though. Remember?
he did. But okay, but this. I would like to point out that at this time he still was undecided whether Oi was officially a part of the group. So the way I kind of see it is like Roland, sacrificing people that aren't in the content. Free game, baby. I mean, there's no
I mean,
more.
and also Jake saw right through him too, as Roland was about to sacrifice Oi.
Mhm. Oh, okay, because we get a lot of that too. I'm glad that you taught that, and that was brought up with Norn, like defining his terminology on the subject. But the shine, right? And it specifically stated we learn from the quartet that it's not just Jake that has this shine, right? No, it's a special ability of the group that the group can literally share thoughts. Is that proper?
Except for Roland doesn't have the. He doesn't. He's a player, not a. He's not a.
Okay, so that's another question because he says that crap, but we the readers see otherwise, right? Because during the whole and even touch bases on it himself. It's more like he's doubting himself as being a part of the quartet versus him being a part of the quartet. Because I mean, he literally not only was able to see through to another world to help Jake get to the key and talk to him through another world. But I mean, he's done that since he's been here. He was able to look in the vault. He was able. I mean, he was literally able to look through Jake's eyes even momentarily. And that my reasoning behind that is just because it was shielded like a bomb shelter. I would have believed if it was a regular room, he could have been looking all around with Jake's eyes. No, but that is a good question that comes up within the book multiple times, right? About Roland being an official member of the quartet, which I don't know, just to me, maybe Steve and Namman or Aaron, that kind of just feels weird, right? Roland not being a part of the quartet.
Yeah. He just
All right,
So
so
touched on that was a cool part. The whole Kef, I like that.
the calf. Yeah.
we got a lot more explanation in the Kef and Ka in this part specifically. It's kind of funny because we broke this book into two parts, right? But how I mean, who here can say that both parts feel like different books? I mean, the first part of this book that we read, the first part was it was all this explanation. Well, not only them trying to save Jake, but we had this whole we had different motifs in the first part versus the motifs we had in this part. I mean, and not only was this one straight action and all this. No, I mean, you're talking about we had the whole gunslinger motto in the whole first part, right? when did that come up in the second part? Not once. Not once did like Roland was like, "You better shoot with your mind," you know. No, I mean, it literally almost felt like we were getting like 2 lessons into this, you know, kind of thing. I was getting all kind of sidetracked. I love it. All right, so my next question, and this one, you know, let's try and keep it as peaceful as we can. I think we've done a good job with that one at first. But why was the TikTok man wanting Nazis? That was the first question that he had for Jake after he got done like beating him around and stuff, and he was all like, "Are you a Nazi?" Why? Why was that? I'm gonna go with you, Steve. Why do you think TikTok man was wanting Nazis? And I love the way he said it, Nazis, and
Yeah,
like
not NOTSEE, not
Nazis. Yeah.
C, not C. Probably because he was trying to kind of get in touch with, you know, his ancestors. Because when they saw the TikTok man, Jake kind of looked at him and said, "Oh shit, man, you're like you're an ancestor of Quick, aren't you? Like a distant ancestor from down the line, like grandson, great grandson, who knows how
Yeah, he
far
was
back."
close, right? He
Yeah,
guessed grandfather, and it was
so
actually
he's
his
a
great
huge guy.
grandfather.
So maybe the kid, you know, is this? Are you a Nazi? Do you know anything about my parentage? That's all I could think about.
I'm gonna go with Phil because I think Phil might have been leading to the right answer on this originally. Maybe not right answer. I shouldn't say that, but a good answer.
A
Let's go with
perspective.
Phil.
I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah.
after what kind of came to light, I think he sees it as a way of expanding his numbers as far as the gray goes. Now, I was listening to the audio version. Were you guys saying that it was spelled differently in the book?
Yes. When the TikTok man said Nazis, he didn't spell it the real way. When Jake says it finally, when he realizes what he's saying, it's spelled correctly, like
Yeah, Jake says
Nazi.
Nazi.
But the way TikTok man says it is not C, like NOTSI or SE or something like that. It's pronounced Nazi if you say it fast enough. But like he was just saying it like
So I'm wondering if that was supposed to be kind of a reference to something with some. This I just thought of now, so it's not really fleshed out, but
no, hit me.
something with Roland's abilities, where he has these, you know, abilities where he can get into somebody's head or something. Maybe it's more than that. Maybe basically the TikTok man is like, you know, do you have a way of basically being a blind spot in Roland's vision? That doesn't make much sense because he hasn't met Roland.
You were going
Yeah.
somewhere that I thought you were going. Like both times, you thought I thought you were going somewhere that I thought you were going. But I mean, just great thinking all together. And Aaron, let's hit you up. Let's see what you got to add to this.
What was the question again? I'm sorry.
Why was the TikTok man wanting Nazis? Why was he hoping? Because it comes off. It's not. It doesn't come off. Let me explain that. It doesn't come off that he thinks Jake is a Nazi and a Nazi is a bad thing. He literally comes off like he's searching for Nazis, like he's looking for a Nazi. Why?
Maybe Nazis are his quartet.
Good theory.
Looking for
He
order.
just wanted that same control that I guess that he knew Nazis had. Or
Come on, you getting there?
maybe
It's it.
it was the way Nazis took control is the way he saw he had to take control there.
Maybe. I could. I mean, if he had four,
Like the brutalness of
if he had
everything.
knowledge, I could see that.
He saw that as an advantage. Like he saw that maybe that was the only way that he could survive there.
Like supremacy overall. I got that. And we do see that a lot, like between diplomacy. I mean, that's a big part of the first couple things we heard about Geely. So, I mean, I think the track mind is there. Let's go with you, Trev. What you got?
I mean, going back to me thinking outside the box, you know, Nazis, they went out and conquered, and maybe it was passed down that there was going to be more coming and just wait for reinforcements. And maybe that's why he was looking.
Namman, what you got?
I'm a little puzzled by this question. But I mean, TikTok definitely wanted those computers, right? He wanted those computers, right? So and uh, then he could control the whole city, and uh, the Nazi, far as the Nazi is concerned, uh, I mean, they were always looking for. I mean, they were probably they would have been the first people to create nuclear bombs themselves. Bef-
The
be-
greatest scientists, man.
Yeah, they had all
Keep
the
going. Keep
scientists,
going.
and they had all the scientists in the, and so I
Guys,
mean,
this is why I love our quartet because I mean, all of us combined, we're almost there. Okay, so like thoughts and theories, but like it's explained in the book that he wants the computers, right?
I,
And Phil brought up something earlier that was so genius, and I thought he was going to continue on it. But like, it's known within our real history that Germans and specifically the Nazis were working on like time travel and portals, and it's specifically stated a bunch of times during this part of the book that they think all the portals are closed. Um, so I always kind of thought that he had foreground knowledge, like from his great grandfather of the science. Like I do like the supremacy part of that because that's common knowledge within. Like if you had that part of the knowledge, like if you had the science part of the knowledge on Nazis, you would have the conquering part as well. You know, the bad stuff. Um, no, but I kind of saw it as both. You know, I mean, we know his main thing was trying to get these dipolar, computers under his control, which ironically I think is funny because he was working with Blaine. I mean, he couldn't have talked Blaine into like, kind of teaching him work. I mean, I don't know, but it also
Well,
goes
I mean,
into the
was he
whole like
working with Blaine or was he working for Blaine?
either way it goes. I mean, AI technically, haha, but so.
I saw it as a Blaine is controlling TikTok rather than TikTok controlling Blaine. So TikTok will
I
not.
saw
I mean, Blaine will not reveal everything about himself.
I saw it both ways, right? Because we get both plays on that, right? Because we hear from Gasher about that they have to sing when they go underground because there are these myths that there's these ghosts in the machines, and the song keeps the ghosts in the machines at play. I always took that as like that's Blaine fucking with them, like knowing that these are like stupid, at their most primal basis of humans. Like that's him. But then you get the turn where we get lines like where Blaine literally had to go turn on the God drones for the TikTok man, and it stated that he did it for the TikTok man. Like those words are specifically. So it's kind of like somebody had stayed. I think it was Aaron had brought it up that the way the Greys had been there, maybe with his great grandfather, they came in like they somehow tried to you know I want to say take over the technological smart places of the city. Which I mean, the Cradle wouldn't be like a place that you would go take over. There'd be no reason unless like, and especially like if you could imagine when they came into the city was machines still currently working. They kind of had to be, right, because these people, I mean, if a caveman saw a computer, would a caveman knew its functionality or even knew that it would power on or something, or would it see it as a rock kind of thing? So you have to imagine when these people were like, early on in their parts, they had to have seen some forms of technology that were still working for them to know that these technologies existed, right? I mean, the TikTok knows of these computers. He doesn't know how they work, but he knows they're computers, right?
See, you I think it was something a little bit different than that.
Hey, Joe man.
Just because how long, at least I got the impression that Blaine has existed for hundreds of years. Am I right on that?
Thousands.
So it seems like this behavior he starts taking on more towards the end, where he's killing off his counterpart, and he's like, "All right, I'm going to blow everybody up. I'm bored." Um, that activity, that behavior, is a recent kind of development. That's the impression I had. I thought maybe TikTok at some point tried to, for lack of a better word, hack him or something, or just play with
I
something with
would
computers and the circuitry, and that's why Blaine is kind of all messed up now.
I could go
Well,
with that.
maybe
And the plane is a kind of portal too.
maybe Blaine was
That's
under
true,
his
too.
control, and the the corruption from the Dark Tower just got to Blaine enough to where he is the way he is now.
That's kind of what I've always leaned to, right? Because we in the first part of this book, the other part that we did, it feels different. We did kind of see that, right, with Shardank and his little like, emergency crew, whatever you want to call it, but that infection and I mean, for all we know, something literally did come across, and maybe Shardank ate the wrong thing, right? And he got sick, and but what makes more logical sense, and what we've been reading, that it's the Dark Tower, the world is moving on. I mean, in this specifically, Blaine says, I wish I would have wrote it down, but something about the synapses of all known like time nodes have been disconnected from the tower, so that's why like magnetism. I mean, yeah, everything's being wishy-washy kind of thing. So that's kind of how I always took it. Was it's not just Blaine that we see this evidence of, like the towers, like because the tower's in trouble, the corruption that's spreading outwards, from the tower. But I mean, you could say we see it in Lud with the people, with how they're acting, with, I mean, because we see different examples, right? We see the quartet in the drums. We see these people in the drums, and the way these people acted. I mean, we don't see any effect on our quartet besides like annoyance, or like with Eddie, we see like him trying to figure it out, like curiosity, but we don't see any kind of physical effects,
No,
ever from the
the
quartet.
quartet hasn't been there long enough. That's why. And the
Wait,
corruption,
I have a
the
question
corruption
for you guys.
is there is a corruption in the city, but we're not going to find out about that till the next book. In the next book, we're going to find out exactly what the corruption kind of
Yeah,
is, and not just in that city, but it's also in other places too.
So,
And it's because of a particular item. But we'll talk
so I
about
have
it
a
in the next book.
I have a question for you guys. Is a Blaine immoral or amoral?
He's gone insane because he's an AI that's been around for 1,000 years, and he's just gone nuts.
yeah. Technically, at this point, you would say both, right? Because it's a good comment with the amoral and moral, because like we see both sides of Blaine, where he's logic and where he's very logical, and he's also illogical, like at certain points, like especially like in his whole explanation on what happens to Patricia, and like it's explained in avid detail that he's the reason why she even considered to commit suicide. It wasn't even like something that she could have done, even though it's explained that she had some like kind of wiring faulty and there was some small fire. He even explains right after that she could have been fixed, and he decides to like remove her, whatever, and that makes,
Self-preservation.
yeah, and that makes her go, insane or whatever, and she goes suicide. Mm.
More of that corruption.
Hey, I got a question. Was the Dark Tower always dark?
It's a good
Yep.
question. Like, okay, so
Was it
especially
painted
for new
white at some point? And,
readers,
they repaint it.
No, I mean,
well,
like,
like
was it freaking a white tower of pearl and then got corrupted?
Can I spoil it?
no.
No.
Okay, so
Uh,
like it's a good question. Well, it depends on the spoil.
I'd spoil it, but he won't have any idea what it means. I can
If you could
spoil it,
do it
but
without,
I can
okay,
do it, but he won't
I
know what it
I'm game for that. If you can riddle the spoil out, let's hit it.
means. The tower is a god.
Okay. I was okay. That okay. I got some thoughts on that now.
So, um, here's a thought. We're reading this story, right, about like a hero on a quest to save something, right? He's picking up his friends, might get some magical items. I mean, it's a typical quest, right? But what kind of typical quest are we going to with dark in the name of the thing that's the holy grail of the quest, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's always been a question in my mind, why the Dark
We
Tower?
actually, he's been mentioned. He was mentioned in the first book. Dan,
Dandelion?
right? or not Gandalo, Gan, just Gan. There was
Oh,
Gan.
Gan.
yeah,
Yes,
Gan.
Gan is
Yeah,
reference. Yes.
Okay,
Old.
well,
but that's as much I'll say. That's as much
I'm
as
gonna make since I haven't made a biblical reference yet, so I
Ooh.
mean since the first book, but another biblical reference is it Jacob and Isaac, the
Yes.
father and
Uh,
son? It's,
Mm.
Actually, we get multiple in this book, right? We get David and Goliath. We get
Hmm.
Jacob and Isaac, the binding of Isaac. We get. Keep going on. So I'm sorry.
anyway, so it's a father and son, father sacrificing. God is asking to sacrifice his son, so he's willing to do it, and right before he does it, God provides a lamb to sacrifice, right? So that's the Bible story. On a Roland story with the Jake is, hey, I'm gonna your for the tower. You have to sacrifice your son, Jake, and he does it, and then God provides, or tower provides a way for him to bring Jake back. So anyway, that's the parallel there. If
No,
That's a
I do
cool
like it, and
reference.
yeah, it is, and it's something that I often like forget about because I'm not super religious myself. I do know. I mean, I do know a lot about the stories, but there's just something that's not there. But no, you're all right. We did get I mean, the whole Lord Purr thing with their version of David and Goliath with the binding of Isaac. And you touched on something from the Gunslinger. Right? I thought you were going to bring it up now with Sodom and Gomorrah with the end of blood, right? And the way it's dismantled. Because somebody said it exploded. It doesn't explode. The city's still there. It's specifically gassed, so just the people die in the city. Like it kind of reminiscent of the same way that Gomorrah was taken out. Like, yeah, but I hadn't thought
Also,
about the.
also gas, like in World War One.
Yeah, definitely. And we've actually this reminiscent of the Gunslinger, right? In the mountains, they went to that subway terminal and found kind of those like military-looking remnants of somebody with gas masks. So this is kind of a common theme we're seeing is gas as a massive weapon. We also learned when they made it to the Wastelands, right, that whatever happened to that part of the Wastelands was something more devastating than a nuclear war. It's not told what, but Blaine just says that it's more dangerous than a nuclear. I don't know. All right, let's get back. I got some more questions. All right, so this is a big one. Jake, Eddie, Roland have all had dreams of the tower, the rose, the key, where Susanna sees in past real time. Why the difference? And I'm going to go with Trev first. If you need me to read it again. So we got Jake,
Yeah.
Eddie, Roland having dreams. They're actually having dreams of the tower / the keys / the rose. They're giving premonitions of the quest, right? But Susanna, she hadn't had any dreams. But she is inflicted with something else. She's seeing like the past in real life images. Like she was able to see what Rivertown Crossing looked like legitimately, how it looked like in the past. And she actually does it with Lud. She actually does it with Blaine. What's the difference? How come she's not getting those same visions?
Well, she's a woman.
you you close your mouth. No, I mean possibly, right? I mean, who knows?
Yeah, I
That's a
don't.
good answer.
Yeah, everybody has to be different. I don't know. Everybody serves their purpose. That's one of her purposes.
Let's
I haven't really thought
go.
about it.
Let's go, Aaron. Aaron, what you got?
Mm,
Told you it's
Maybe
a tough one.
it's because of the split inside of her. Um, I think maybe to let you know, like she's still battling with that. Like that still needs
Maybe because she's
work,
not whole.
needs working out. So
Maybe
she's
she's out.
working. She's working out something different than they are still. She's still. It's showing you they're working like they are in more in tune, but she's not. Like she still has something off, like a contrast. Maybe to
Let's
let
go,
us
Phil.
know, there's more to her.
I like. All right, Phil. Let's go.
The only other observation I was trying to make with that, the only difference between the other characters and her, she's the only one, technically at least, that we know of at this point from the past. Eddie and Jake, at the time the books are coming out, are closer to modern day. Roland may be from the past. We don't quite know yet, but the way it's shaping up, I'm starting to think he's actually from the future. So I think that she is the only character from the past, and that's why she has this ability.
All right. Namman, what you got?
I always saw. She's I think of all of them. I mean, comparatively speaking, least believer of the Dark Tower, and nothing that she has right now. I don't know if you guys noticed that. You guys noticed the morning sickness.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's a
So,
good point.
I mean, she has some. She possibly have. I mean, at this point in time, possibly have something that's evil.
Brewing.
Yeah, is it Eddie's or the demons?
Mm.
So, so that's what I wanna convey.
I like it, Namman. I like it. Steve?
That's a tough one because I don't want to spoil anything.
No, and you cannot.
I know I can't spoil it, so it's going to be tough to try and say anything without spoiling anything. Yeah, she's like an excellent point. She's different. She is different. You guys have all clicked into it that she's different from all the rest of them, and that's important. So just hang on to that. So that's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
I love it. No, but it is something to focus on. Like that. That's kind of why I brought this question into, and like Steve and Namman kind of pointed out, it's kind of hard to explain this without spoiling, kind of thing.
I mean, I only mentioned things that's in the book. So
Yeah. Everybody, nobody's spoiling yet. Everybody doing a great job. Even Aaron with the riddle, it's still a good job. No, I'd like to applaud. That we could take a moment and like the constant readers at this point, like literally pat yourself on the back for being, going through these many books and not spoiling like major part, talk, because these questions are hard to talk about without, going into future stuff that we know. Okay, so next question. At this point, who's your favorite member? Let's go, Steve, since you're there.
I like
In this book. Oi?
I like Oi. He's just a cool little character. And I think that there's more than meets the eye to him. When I started reading about him the first time, I said, this guy, he's I know he's a creature. He's like a little honey badger thing, but he's actually smart and he has his own thoughts. So I thought, he's a cool character.
Trev.
Yeah.
Let them
Jake,
know.
especially whenever he grabbed the machine gun, I was like, yes, I love him even more now.
Yeah, I love that scene. Phil, let's go with you.
I'd have to agree. Jake is my favorite, but I think we're starting to see a shift with him when it comes to that machine gun scene.
Namman?
This is a tough one at this point in time. I mean, I love Jake. I love Oi. But the in this book, star is Roland. I mean, this book star is Roland.
I don't know. Oi saved the day there.
Huh?
All right.
Well, he
the
saved the
cheapest
day.
answer.
He got him to Jake, and he did a lot to set everything up for Roland to do his
Eddie,
thing.
Eddie did a lot
Uh, uh,
too on the train.
Oh yeah.
Well,
Eddie
that's
was
I
amazing.
mean, I'm going to change
But
my mind on
I'm
book.
gonna
I'm going to
I'm
change
gonna
my
agree
mind
with
on
Norman.
next book. Okay, so
you gonna go with Namman? Are you gonna go with the
Roland.
cheap answer?
I'm in this for Roland. I'm in this whole thing for Roland.
I mean,
I can
he
say,
in the I mean, Roland was the star in the at the river, river stop.
yeah.
He was the star, and then he earned the respect of everybody in the Blaine. So I mean, that was awesome uh, showing of Roland's authority over.
Don't
Yeah.
and don't forget the whole Gasher scene. You,
I
me.
really give Roland credit for holding it together too. Not letting everything fall apart. Like Roland really shows, he helped keep everything together, keep everything on path.
His
But
speech
My,
on the train was pretty epic.
yeah.
that speech on the train was epic,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You talk about he started that thing and everybody shut the fuck up and sat down like, let me listen to this.
In amazement.
Yeah,
See, but you know
astonishment.
what? I kind of thought that speech was an indication that not only is the rest of the quartet subliminally learning from Roland, I think he's also learning from them or being influenced by
Mhm.
them, because that's not the same Roland. That's not the same way Roland 2 books ago would have reacted.
Right, I agree. I'm gonna have to say that my favorite person still is one person nobody mentioned, but Susanna. I love Susanna. I love the moments with her. And guess what? She was part of the reason they got saved. She was the one that figured out the prime number thing.
Mhm.
I'm just gonna throw that out there. She took down the bear. I'm just
Was it Susanna though,
yeah, yeah. Oh, yes, it was. Yes, it was.
or was it Odetta? Or
And
Dennis?
Susanna helps make them all stronger because this whole time, Susanna's got no legs, so they
It's not even
push.
like
They're pushing her and
And now she has
dragging
no
her through all
wheels.
this.
Well, I
yeah.
It's
mean,
helping.
She lost her wheelchair.
I'm not gonna blame you for choosing Susanna. I mean,
I love all the
Hey,
characters. Don't get me wrong, and Roland's definitely my number one favorite. I'm just like Aaron. That's why I'm in the book. But talking about the side characters or the
She
quartets,
does. Susanna
she
strengthens everybody. She
there's just
strengthens the group. She's like the steroids.
for me, it's like the soft. Everybody goes to Jake with the softness, and for me, Suzanne is that softness, and it's with Eddie. Like their play on each other are like moments that make me smile or make me feel happy inside, kind of thing, because the love that they have, shit, instantly, kind of thing.
I got to get used
Um,
to the accent for Eddie though on that new audio book. I can't stand that.
Yeah.
and change the dynamic,
you're
huh?
gonna love Eddie. Spoiler alert.
Uh,
Next book, you're gonna love him.
All right, so one last question for this big chapter. What are your thoughts on the role of technology and its remnants within Lud or Lud? Phil, since you're right there, let's hit you up.
I hadn't thought about it much in this part of it, but in the first part of it, it was my initial thought that it was kind of poisoning Midworld. It was definitely a problem, and I think that's what Positronics was trying to correct. I remember we talked about that last time. It's kind of gone amok, and in that sense, Blaine is a symptom of that. That I'm sure Blaine wasn't created to be a homicidal death machine, so to speak, but here we are.
Let's go, Norman. Let's go with you next.
What
What are your thoughts on the role of technology and its remnants within the city of Lud?
I mean,
Hey,
technology.
Pamela.
I mean, this is uh, one of those sci-fi theme where technology intentionally was to help humanity, but it's going against humanity. Tech versus science kind of thing.
Like Westworld kind of thing, right?
Yeah, Westworld. Every science fiction has this trope, right? The technology,
Yeah, true.
Terminator. You got. I mean, it, even Dune. It's just a. That's where I saw it, but I don't know if this is what you were looking for. But
Yeah, no real answer, but it's a good answer, I will say. Let's go with Aaron. What you got on this question? What are your
I
thoughts on the role of technology and its remnants within the Lud?
It's the scenery, like the scenery of the books, kind of too, like Stephen King melding the genres together. Showing Roland from the West, Eddie Susanna from our world, and then we got futuristic stuff left
Mhm.
from this
boy,
old times that used to be, and ancient but futuristic, and at the same time. And so, like, you just get this huge blend of everything, and so it's just kind of sets in this scenery, this mood that hasn't really been done before. And then also, like, to show the irresponsibilities of the old ones, that made positronics and everything, to show they got irresponsible with their technology, and that it's kind of like a warning too, just like in the old sci-fi books and tropes. Like Namman was saying, it's a warning. We shouldn't be irresponsible. We shouldn't. Or this could happen. That kind of thing.
Facts. Let's go, Steve.
I was just waiting for some kind of sci-fi to happen and see the technology and the cool stuff that was slow trans engine, a train that goes the speed of sound, AI. I wanted to see
Robot
lasers and like
bears.
all this cool technology. I wanted to see what what they had, how they lived before the world moved on and all this destruction. But it kind of shows you too the materials that everything was made out of was built to last. Kind of parallels our current world. Just think of what our world would be like if suddenly mankind was gone. How long it would take for things to decay and stop working, and things like stainless steel will be around for forever. It's never going
Yeah,
to decay. It's never going to go back to the world. I thought that was kind of cool. But it's neat that they threw that technology in there, that stuff that's so far advanced.
when I see, I don't know if you guys drive through those wind wind
the
wind
turbines.
wind
Yep.
turbine. When there's tons of those guys in a mountain somewhere where you drive
Yeah,
through and there's nobody around, but those things are just running and running.
Yep.
They're
Automated.
turning,
Mhm.
and I get the eerie feeling, you know, when
yeah, it feels
humanity is
alien,
all dead and gone. Those things still might be just keep on turning.
right? All right, Phil, what you got?
Can you repeat that again?
What are your thoughts on the role of technology and its remnants within Lud?
Oh, I thought I kind of answered that already. I think
Yeah,
that
you already did, Phil. You haven't done
yeah.
me.
I'm sorry.
He did.
Yeah.
He did. One thing I would like to add that for me, it always felt like a good opportunity to King for Midworld to like feel as foreign as possible as Earth, because reading at this point, I mean, there's been said things like Roland might be from the past or the future. It's kind of so for me. Always reading this part once we get to Lud and getting to see a lot more of the technology, which I'm with Steve. I want to see more of that. Like, what did this world look like before this catalytic? But it's also King's way of like making this world feel alien, like it's not Earth, like it's a different, it's like a question about the bridge. Is it the GBH bridge from our world? No, I don't think it is. I think somebody just, it's kind of like that whole like, you put a whole bunch of monkeys in the room and with the typewriter and they'll come up with Shakespeare. I think it's something like that just Maybe like twinsies. Somebody just happened to create a bridge that looked like a bridge in our world, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh,
I always thought that it was the Dark Tower that corrupted everything. They were the peak of civilization, basically. And of course, the big cities are going to be the last to be there. So,
true.
and just the world has moved on. To me, that means that that's when the Dark Tower started corrupting everything. Everything started dying.
Mm-hmm. Well, that. All right, right. So let's move on. We get to the last part of the book, Riddles and the Wastelands, and it's probably the smallest part of the book. With the help of Ditto, the quartet is able to beat Blaine's riddle. They board the train as Blaine kills Ludd. They travel along the beam, getting grotesque views of the wastelands. Roland convinces Blaine into a riddle challenge for their lives. My first question for this is discuss the importance of riddles in your lives and why it was so important in Gilead. And reference for the first part of the question is like, did riddles come up in your life before this story? Like when you were younger, was that something you were interested in? And the second part of the question was, why is it so important in Gilead, riddles? Let's go, Phil. You're right there. Let's hit you up.
I mean, me personally, every so often, as a kid, you'd run across a riddle I couldn't say. It had a great importance or was something I always kind of looked for. I think in terms of the story, what I thought was kind of interesting is if you think about it, a riddle, at least the way that Roland describes it, has a basically logical sequence. You've got a logical question, you've got an answer. A leads to B. It might not be the most straightforward way, but A does lead to B. When you put in terms of this book where you've got, this killer AI computer who loves riddles, a computer is a logical tool, runs on logistics, calculation machine. To me, a riddle is the most, I guess, technological thing in that sense that we could think of as people. But at the same time, I think that what Roland needed to do at that time, and what Susanna, I think, did, was basically present the most logical question to the train that she could. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, here's something that you're a machine that figures out logistics. You should be able to know this, but because it's in a riddle, it's complex. It's not necessarily an A to B kind of thing. Like, you need an extra little imagination to get to that, and that's something AI does not have. I know that was a little bit of a journey to get there, but I appreciate you guys for standing in.
Namman, what you got? That was good, Phil. I'm sorry. I was muted.
First of all, of course, it's another homage to Lord of the Ring, right? Riddle contest.
Yes.
I have a riddle for you guys. I love riddles, by the way. I have a riddle for you guys. What gets bigger as you cut it out? Norin?
A lake?
Whoever. Whatever want to answer. Just
A lake?
what do you say?
A
I don't
lake?
know.
Life?
A lake?
A lake.
A
A lake?
pond?
Is that
Okay.
a no?
I'll give you the answer and let's see which one's the right one. Hole.
Huh?
Hole. Hole.
Hole?
If you
Hole?
cut it
A
out,
hole.
it gets
Oh, a
bigger.
hole?
Yeah,
That's
a
pretty
hole.
much, yeah.
Yeah, a hole.
The more you cut out, the more
Okay.
the bigger it
Yeah,
gets.
yeah.
That's a good one.
So yeah, I love riddles.
When was your experience with riddles? That's part of this question. Like, when did that start?
When did I
Yeah, was
start?
that it?
I
Yeah,
was,
was
I
that as a little
was a little
kid?
kid. I mean, I was really
What
started when
got you? What got you specifically into riddles?
what got me into it.
Or if you can remember, I'm sorry.
I mean, like uh,
It's
you know,
kind of off.
saying on words like there's a like I mean, it's pretty. Some of it is pretty racial, right? I mean, like there's a like a there's a Korean riddle. This is one of the earliest riddle I could remember. You guys probably don't understand it, but uh, the Korean riddle says, "What is the skinniest man living in Japan?" Right,
Hmm.
and then so people don't know. Okay, so then the answer will be Pisairo Makazan. You know, so that sounds it sounds like a Japanese name, right? Sang, Bisairo
Hmm.
Makazan. It sounds like a Japanese name to Korean ears, right? But if you analyze the words, it means B is rain, Sai means in between. This person can go between the rain because he's so skinny.
He's that skinny. I gotcha. I
So
gotcha.
yeah, but that kind of stuff started really early when I was a kid, like 7, 8, you know.
Hmm.
So and I those things. I mean, when you first hear it, it's I mean, it's okay, you know. But you know, second time hear, of course, it's not that fascinating. But
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it is. I've never actually heard in like a lot of foreign riddles. I can say, Aaron, let's touch base with you, and the question was, discuss the importance of riddles in your lives and why it was so important in Gee leads.
Uh, I thought this part was just really cool. Just how, there was no TV, no radio entertainment. And so their entertainment was these riddles. And so, like, and if, you think about how good you would get at telling riddles and telling stories and stuff, if you don't have anything else to do. And Roland shows, how he's the master of that. And I guess to me, like, I really noticed it, like, I guess at a young age, like where I had like a really cool nursery, what was it, like a nursery rhyme book, basically, like Mother Goose and all that with, and I guess the biggest riddle story in that I can remember was Rumpelstiltskin. And like, I really liked the Rumpelstiltskin story, and it
Yeah,
kind of plays out like a riddle.
yeah, it
And
does.
I don't know. I guess that's how I kind of liked riddles and stuff like that at an early age.
Let's go, Trev.
Critical thinking brings out
Mhm.
critical thinking. I mean, it's perfect. Alexander the Great did the same thing with his generals.
Yeah.
It brings out, yeah, just looking at situations differently. I mean, Dr. Seuss, of course, read a
Mhm.
bunch of that growing up. Love riddles.
What about you in riddles? When did they start?
When I was a little kid.
What
Well,
got you into riddles? Like, was it a nurse? Do you remember? Or...
yeah, Dr. Seuss.
Oh, Doctor. All right, all right.
Yeah.
Let's go, Phil.
you already talked to
We
Phil.
do.
Did I? Oh, okay. I'm there. Let's go, Steve.
Same, Trev. I like that. That was cool. Yeah, there's no
Yeah.
sports in Gilead, so I mean, riddles are a good thing. So, and then it promotes competition because Court would be walking away with the goose at the end of it, and yeah, it's a sporting type thing. There was fights breaking out. People
Court
could
was the
get killed
champion.
over it. It was a serious business back there. Very serious business, but it's more than it's a padlock too. Like look at the Tolkien, speak friend and enter. You guys remember
Hmm.
that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of a padlock to a door. So yeah, it's just like all you guys said. It's critical thinking. It makes you think about this stuff. Yeah, I did all this stuff in like nursery schools, Dr. Seuss. But then I really enjoyed doing it in Dungeons and Dragons because I'd use it in my game. Throw riddles and stuff in the dungeons to see how
Oh
smart my
yeah, we
people
did
were.
that. Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Because it's, again, it's fun. It's the competition too. Everybody puts their heads together and go, okay, this is a puzzle we got to figure out. So it can also help with the group dynamics too, because the group can start working together. And this is going to be a big one for this quartet to see how well they work together.
Yeah, we've kind of already seen that. I mean, all throughout this book, right? I mean, starting with the riddle book and like the deeper meaning, why he needed to pick that up, kind of thing.
Yep, they keep
I
getting
love.
challenged all the time.
Yeah,
I love the contrast. Norman brought it up, but there's no TV and stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah,
but riding in this train where you can have all kind of virtual reality. This train is built to entertain the people that's in the train.
Yeah.
You got all these virtual reality that's meant to entertain you and serve you every whimsical need that you have. These people from the future that they're very similar to us. So we're just glued to our internet, and
Yeah,
Mhm.
intellectually
entertain us.
Well, but we don't know anything about schools too. They're never talked about. Do they have schools there? Are there universities? Are there colleges? What is their education?
He mentions
is
like
this the
Fanny the
education?
tutor, and that's as far as that goes.
But
Yeah.
the contrast here is that these people are, just using words and critical thinking and these puzzles to entertain and socialize. The whole community gets involved, and that in a way is replaces the internet and TV and all that.
Yeah, but it's more important because it's team building.
And like
Building
it was
community.
almost a status statement too. Like
Yeah, it was.
Who's the smartest among us? Court.
Yeah, Court was a
Walking away
big
with it.
big thing every year. And
Yeah,
like,
one thing
what was
about Court, he
Win
kind of
the
makes you
goose,
not
win the
like
goose.
him.
You
when
gotta
you
win
first-
the goose.
Yeah, it does, Trev. You're
Say it
right.
again, Trey.
He kind of makes you not like him when you first meet him, but as you hear more about him as it goes on, I kind of get to like that guy.
Yeah, because you
He's
think of
just
him
a
as a ball
fantastical
buster.
character, I mean, he's intelligent where he's so intelligent where he wins the riddle contest like 9 years in a row or something like that. It's explained that there's 8 tournaments in a year. So you're telling me he's winning like 8 times 8 times 8 times, all the way up into 9 years. This dude is undefeated.
He's probably got an
Um,
eidetic memory.
Shit, he's got all it. And they were talking about it, and I think it's mentioned that in one barrel there could be up to 3,000 different riddles at any given time. That the knowledge that you would have to have all those. I mean, you just think about. Well, I mean, no, I guess we could if we minused everything we knew out of TVs and movies and written books, right? Because they didn't have paper, like especially in Geely, they're writing that stuff on bark.
Yep.
You think
They
about
have
how,
3 minutes to answer it.
yeah, that to me is a little ridiculous. I like
That's a little
uh,
crazy.
I like the explanation on everything else behind it. Like, okay, the next person gets that, added on time. Of course, the last person gets all that time. Could you imagine there's like 3,000 people in your line and no one's answered the riddle? You're like, yeah, I get like 3 hours and 23 minutes to answer this thing. Like the dude
maybe Court's just lucky because then he's at the end of the line, so he gets to think about it more. So he's doing.
Maybe
the
he's
strategy
always
play.
at the end of the line.
It could be. So he might just have the horseshoe up his ass.
That bastard.
I like him even more.
Right?
He's more
Crafty.
of an asshole now. Excellent.
Like a fox.
He's like
We
that
know a guy
sergeant
like that.
from,
He's like
Full Metal
Neil, huh?
Jacket,
There you go.
the drill sergeant.
Full
Full
Metal-
Metal Jacket.
yeah.
That's how I kind of think of Court.
What's that dude's name? I met him in person. He's cool. He was a cool guy. R.I.P. For me in riddles, and everybody touched base on it. The critical thinking, like the status quo in Geely, like what it offered. Especially we know from previous installments that Geely was like they were built on pride, and shaming was a big thing. We even see they carry over to like within Lud that shaming and pride and all that carries weight, not just in Gilead, but in other cities. Like his Gasher brings it up, that he was willing to take physical damage before he was willing to take some shaming of his family, kind of thing. He was like, don't talk about my dad. So me and riddles, it's early on as well, but for me it was Greek mythology, like getting into Greek mythology and the riddle of the Sphinx, the
Thanks.
riddle from the Minotaur. Like, I mean, their riddles were like woven in there, and of course it's like Trev said, it was woven into like most of our real history with Alexander the Great and stuff like that. I mean, I think riddles were in Norse mythology. I think they were in, I mean, every mythology on the planet, kind of thing. Yeah. But I think it's because it's like that. It's like we stated, there were there in a world with no TV, no radios, no you know devices, so to say. We would be more verbal. We would, I believe, we would be more quizzical.
And we've already had to face a lot of riddles with the Man in Black and
Mhm.
the succubus
speaks in
that he
riddles.
encountered. And so I think it's another, and this is kind of a climatic point in the story and as a whole. And so like you got to kind of think that riddles are going to be important, kind of play an important role in the whole story.
This is a side note, and Trev, as a new reader, I know he texted me behind the scenes, and he kind of got this. Okay, so there is a small portion in the last part of this book where we do get a major cameo from somebody that's supposed to be dead at this point, right? And he's not referenced to anything that he's used before, but this isn't really a question. I'm just throwing this out. So I mean, but we did get to see our dude, the Man in Black, show up, and the reason I'm referencing this for some of the new readers is because it's a direct reference to The Stand. Because for people that have read The Stand, this is how he looked throughout The Stand. This is like the care. Not the name. The name's close. It's RF. I forget. Trev, do you remember
Randall
the name?
Flagg.
Yeah, Flag or something. It's close.
Randall Flagg.
No, not Randall Flag. What was the name he used in this book? It's not Randall. It's
Oh, in this book. Martin? Or
no, it's RF. It's RF. We're getting closer to Randall though, but it wasn't exactly Randall Flag. It was like Rendell Flug or.
oh. I didn't
Oh, give me a
catch it.
second. Give me a second. It's at the end. Here it is.
Thanks,
Richard
Flanagan.
Fannin.
Flanagan?
Richard
Fannin.
Fannin.
Richard
Huh?
Fannin.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is just like a side note, because basically this reference is almost like he walked literally out of the stand. And not only that, but there's a couple other references to the stand. So if you haven't read it, but a major part of the stands take place in Topeka, Kansas. And guess where we're heading? We're heading to Topeka, Kansas, which for some weird reason is attached to Midworld. It's the
Well, they
last
say
stop.
Topeka. They don't say Kansas.
Well, yeah, they
Yeah.
just say Topeka. That is true.
Yeah.
That is true. But that's the only Topeka that I know of. You know what I'm saying? And incidentally, that is the Topeka where the stand takes place. Is in
Topeka.
No, but it's kind of like this is
Where
more
did
of
Wizard
like,
of Oz take place?
wait, what? Wizard of Oz? Ah, and that's also
I don't know what
referenced.
this place you're
Kansas,
talking
it's
about
not
there, Aaron.
Topeka, I don't think.
It is Topeka, Kansas, and that's also twice directly referenced by Susanna, and she's also the one that references Lords of the Rings.
You're not
And
in Kansas anymore.
she's the one that and Jake also thinks about it at the end of the book with Blaine and how he kind of resembles the whole powerful Oz, the man behind the curtain thing. I don't know about y'all, but I've heard the audiobook version and I know how they do Blaine, but for some reason every time I read this, the voice of Blaine for me is Ed 209 from RoboCop. Like, you must comply. You have 50 shotguns. I don't know why that, like, when he gets all like stern and he's like, you have like 12 minutes or you're going to be stuck with Lud in the gas or whatever.
Yeah,
To
that's
me, I
about
mean,
how I read it.
to me, and I know that this book is certainly a couple decades old at this point. The way that the voice is read, it almost sounds like one of those AI videos. Like you can tell when there's an AI voiceover because it
Like
has that
that
weird
calm
cadence.
human robotic voice.
Yeah, that kind
Yeah.
of is like, oh, okay.
I thought of it like the Cylons by your
Oh,
command.
that's good. That's good.
Wait, hold on a sec. You just gave me an idea. So the train. I just said the weird kind of AI voice, and you have Mr. TikTok. There you go. The train is TikTok.
Yeah, I was waiting for him to pop out and start doing dance. I was been like, God damn, Stephen
TikTok
King,
dance
you damn futuristic.
No, I
is
meant the
years before. No.
Yeah.
the app.
Yeah, he's referencing the TikTok app or whatever. It's pretty much an app that's focused on people dancing.
Dang it.
Um,
I want you guys to tell me a one riddle each.
I only know like okay. Honestly, I can be foreboding, but I'm not that good at riddles. There are some riddles that I'm good at, but then we saw two different types of riddles, and I'm good at the like like you don't have to think outside the box to get it. The answer should be in there, kind of thing. Like the shadow one, I can get that one. The river, I can get that one. No, it's the riddles that we find in the other type of riddle in the book that they come across, where it's like a twofold riddle, where there's like that the first part is talking about one thing, the second part of the riddle is talking about another, and you're supposed to come up like the strawberry one. I mean, without the answer, I don't know if I ever would have got the strawberry one. I don't know about I've never. Maybe I'm more like Roland as far as like, but I'm good with like riddles that came from the Sphinx and stuff like that. But as far as like, mm-mm. All right, so I do have one more question to end out this. Besides getting some predictions, but how does King continue to build suspense and tension throughout this book? How did it differ from the first two? And let's go with Trev. You're going first, buddy.
It was just constant suspense. The whole chase scene with him dragging with Gasher, dragging Jake through the tunnel, and it was pretty constant. And then of course there was parts with whenever Roland came across the door and had to send Oi through. It was suspenseful, waiting to see how that panned out. Whenever the Deans encounter Blaine, it was pretty much suspenseful all the way through, more than it has been so far.
I like it. Namman?
Like you guys say, how Stephen King spoils his books. How he spoils it. I mean, he does that quite a bit. For instance, one of the things he does, one of the devices he uses, he does it, spoils it, and whatever he spoils comes true, right? Spoil come true. Like then one of the things he spoils about is, oh yeah, always gonna die, right? Always gonna be the next sacrifice. Right? So you reading it, and you go, oh no, he's in that trap. How's a TikTok man gonna kill off Oi? That's what you're thinking, and you go, oh man, then
Hey,
Oi survives, and go, oh, so
great.
I think that's how he does it. He's just he throws you off different, he throws you off red herrings, and then.
I do like that because he does that. I mean, because we've seen specifically where he spoils, and then he walks you up to the spoiled point, right? But then there's moments like the dream with Oi, and that didn't come true. Maybe in a metaphor, but I mean, Oi's still with us and kicking. He's on the train at the end of this book, so I mean, he didn't get hit by a train.
Oi.
Here's a riddle,
All right.
Namman.
All right.
Can you name 3 consecutive days without using the words Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday?
Yesterday, today, tomorrow.
You cheater.
Good
That was
job, Trev.
Aaron, since you're up there, what you got to add to that?
All right, well, say it again. The question.
How does King continue to build suspense and tension throughout this book? How does it differ from the first two books?
Yeah, more of a mind, using your mind a lot to beat the problem, showing like how Roland had to use politic thought in this, and like, you really like, am I going to make the right choice? Are we going to go right, left? Are we going to do the right thing, wrong thing? The tension's always there because, Jake, I mean, it's just action packed the whole, like, I don't know. I thought it was real action packed from beginning to end. Like, there wasn't really, like, you got, like, the slowdown time was just them kind of recharging, at that save point. That was kind of the slowest part. And then everything else is like,
Yeah, it ramps back up.
pretty fast flowing. Yeah. Yeah, that's about all I had to say.
Phil?
In addition to what's already been said, I think a key point, at least that brings me back to the next chapters and whatnot, are the actual characters themselves. There should be very few things that we can find relatable to a gunslinger who may be from the future, a woman with a split personality, and so on and so forth. But I think King really excels at basically giving you some kind of factor or some sort of a characteristic that makes you kind of invested into these characters and say, okay, I want to see what's going to happen to Eddie going forward. I want to see what's going to happen to Jake in the next chapter. And here, I think the way that this book ended was different from the prior books because it does feel more like a to be continued than the prior chapters. I mean, look, in the prior books, I knew there was going to be a next book. But in this one, I think it was the first one where, and they even kind of said this, I don't know, Trev, if your audio also had the authors afterward, it made it sound like the next book was coming out relatively quickly. So I got the impression that, hey, we're leaving it like
It took
this.
6 years.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah,
It took 6 years.
Real time. That was something I mentioned to Trev afterwards. I was like, imagine if you were reading this book in real life. We had to wait legitimately 6 years. If you would have read this the first month, the book
But he
didn't
did
come
a
out.
lot in between.
He did.
With he did the regulators and stuff, so he was doing some
Oh,
stuff.
he did a bunch.
How
and
much
the Green
time did
Mile.
it take between the other
So
books?
this came out. So we have the Gunslinger that was in 1982, and a big gap here in 1987. So 5 years difference. And then from Drawing of the Three, 1987, we go Wastelands in 1991. So 4 year difference. And then Wizard of Glass, 1997, the 6 year gap. Wolves of the Calla, 2003. So another pretty big gap. Songs of Susanna, 2004. Dark Tower, 2004. And The Wind in the Keyhole, 2012. So if you were reading this, like some of us, as it was dropping, because not the Gunslinger for me, but I mean from Drawing of the Three on, I've read them as they currently came out. So in between, there were massive gaps, and I explained to Trev, like from this point, this was the first point in the series where Stephen King scared the crap out of me because I never thought we were going to get a continuation of the series because the gap was, for me, the gap was super long during this book to the next book.
That would be horrible. 6 years waiting for the freaking.
And there was at that time, I mean, there was no like, I mean, we're talking about pre-internet. We're talking about like, I mean, there wasn't like, mention of Stephen King and what he was writing next. It was just whatever he dropped. I mean, I'm pretty sure there were like newsletters or fan clubs or something like that, but not readily available like the internet is.
What did he write in between those 6 years?
I think I still have that written down. Hold on.
Worst ending to a book ever.
He did the Green Mile, the Regulators, as Bachman. He did some Bachman work, and then
Yeah, both on both sides under King and Bogman.
there was quite a bit.
I had it written down at one time because during each individual gap, it makes it sound like that he didn't write anything in between those times. No, that's
you
not the
wrote something
case.
there in between. Just
Yeah, I want to say
you're a Doug Tall fan. You'd be like, oh, come on, man.
exactly. Okay, so during this time, he did. I don't know if this was like it was Dark Half in '89, The Stand in '90, The Revised and Uncut, Needful Things in '91. Now this is all predate the Wastelands. I don't think I grabbed what he did after the Wastelands. Dang it.
Yeah, this was the first time it was like, oh yeah, there's a next chapter coming. You know, all the other ones, it kind of was like, well, it felt like, hey, you know, yeah, there's more story, but if nobody's reading this, I could just end it here.
They couldn't have ended it there. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so this one thing that we need to touch on, and the second thing I can add in a little bit. Okay, one, we need to talk about Stephen King and inconsistencies. Maybe the new readers didn't catch it, maybe you did. There's multiple inconsistencies with what has kind of already been displayed in the story, right? And specifically talking about the Man in Black. Even in this part, when he comes in, he still references himself as like, you know, he references himself as certain people that have been explained that he's not those people. So, and I was going to get there, but thanks. Yeah, Stephen King still writes this day. He has a new book coming out in May, I think.
I think
Okay, so
that was his first book that he wrote. He wrote after he said, "I'm going to retire writing."
I think you might be right.
I think
All right,
that
so
was, yeah, that's
there are, and I will add that the inconsistencies are up until this book, and there's kind of a reason for it. I mean, at this point in the story, he knew where the story was going, but there were still some elements that he was kind of like wishy-washy on, and they got defined as he was going through. So I want to say by the next book, a lot of those inconsistencies start lining up a lot more. But there are a lot of fans like want to nitpick and this and that. I mean, I don't know. For me, they still work. I mean, as long as you know that the Man in Black is a magician, a shapeshifter, and bam, there you go. That's all you need to know. I forgot what else I was gonna add. The second piece. Oh, okay. The second piece is from this point on, a lot of the books end at weird stages. I wouldn't say cliffhangers, and I wouldn't say because that was also something that we talked about backstage. Just, technically, this isn't really a cliffhanger. He ends it like kind of like mid conversation or mid scene, like
Whatever.
yeah,
It's
like
a cliffhanger.
I mean, you could say cliffhanger. They're about to riddle for their lives.
Riddle
but,
for
like,
our lives.
I mean,
His chapters are also erratic. Like sometimes his
Yes.
chapters will only be like one sentence or one word or one paragraph, and then
You know
it's
what I
another
feel-
chapter.
You know what I feel like is like Stephen King goes, this is gonna be a riddle for life. Shoot, what kind of riddle? I'm gonna have to do some research on riddles. It took 6 years for him to come up with some riddles.
He had some good ones. You know, I remember reading this as like a teen, and I remember I had a pretty good knowledge of probably a greater knowledge than I do now because I've forgotten a bunch. But like, you know, I had a pretty good knowledge of riddles at the time, and I want to say reading this, there were a couple that I knew, but there were a couple like brand new that without
Hey,
looking
if I
at the
get stuck
answer.
on a train with Blaine, I want Trev on my side. He answered that riddle fastest.
All right. Yeah, but that's all the questions. That is this book. I want to hear some predictions from Trev and Phil. Where do y'all think the story is going from this point? How do you think the riddling challenge thing is going? You know, any thoughts into that? You know,
I'm still hoping
Phil,
for
you're
some
right there.
bionic legs for Susan. That's what I'm hoping.
Bionic legs. I
Bionic
like
leg.
that.
Yeah.
Bionic legs, huh?
This is the first time I'm kind of like, all right, I don't know really what to expect next. I mean, I'm curious why Topeka is so important.
I could tell you that without. I mean, it is a spoiler, but not a spoiler. But like,
Sometimes
I'd
I'd rather experience it.
okay. Well, I mean, it's kind of. Well, yeah. Okay, go ahead. We'll get there and we'll talk about it in the book. I kind of already touched base on it though, that the importance.
I mean, they got out of the city. I think they're going to encounter some monsters. Hopefully, that's what I'm looking for.
I mean, what do you
We
think the
we
next
haven't seen
stop of
too
the
many
quest looks
monsters.
like?
The Man in Black.
What'd
I
you
mean,
say?
what? And at this
I've
point in
been
the
worried the
quest,
whole time. Like that was one thing I was kind of gonna mention earlier. Is like not so much this time because I already knew, but the first time I read, I was worried about the Man in Black the whole time because I knew at the end when we saw him last in book one, when the last time we see him really, he was bones. Like Roland had left the dream that they both had, that long, long, long dream. And so like really the last time we saw Man in Black in Roland's timeline was
yeah,
bones.
the
But I knew
labyrinth.
he wasn't gone. I knew like because the whole time Roland had been chasing him and he'd been setting traps ahead of him the whole time. And so like this whole time I was just waiting. Like I was like, is this a trap for Man in Black? Is this it's like because like the whole time I'm like TikTok man can't be the bad guy. It's like Nash or Gasher can't be the one we're worried about here. I was like, it's got to be the Man in Black the whole time.
It's something that I didn't bring up, but it's kind of like, at this point in the journey, we haven't really seen the evil element, right? I mean, this like legion that was talked about at the end of the book. I mean, even with the Man of Black in the second book, he's kind of not there at all, right? I mean, he's brought up. We think we're going to see him, and we never really do. And in this one, it's like it's very fleeting, right? I mean, he's basically like helping TikTok man escape that little bunker, and that's it. And it comes from like a very confusing place in the book because it's out of left field, and it's like this origin story on like who Andrew Quick is, but you're not even explained who Andrew Quick is until like it gets later on in the story.
So is he going to
That
be
was like
hunting them?
who, TikTok man.
Yeah.
You tell me. These are your predictions, buddy. What you think? I mean,
I mean,
we see that Gasher's dead. He's dead, but TikTok man looked like he was still up and running. And Walter, the man with traps and plans. I mean, he grabbed this dude for some reason.
and he healed him. Did he like mutate him? Did he make him a lot more powerful than he is? And he's
I
going to
don't
be hunting him.
technically. Maybe Steve or Nama can or Aaron can answer that. Technically, I don't know what he did to TikTok man and that when he touched him. I could give you my theories on from what we've seen from the Man in Black from the first book, but technically I don't know what he did. I mean, he does do something. He does touch him, and there is the way it's read is he touches him. There's like an immense amount of pain, and then he's quick starts to feel better.
I mean, he does say, hey, you just think you're dead, or he does say something like that, right? You're not really dead yet.
Well,
Right.
Man in
remember,
Black
Please
has
tell
got
me
the
we're going
touch
to
of
get
death,
into this
baby.
part because the next book is
Yes,
about his
yes,
past,
yes,
right?
we are. We are.
Okay.
Okay, so and this might be a pre-warning, but I kind of warned you about the dynamics of the book. You're gonna get an action, you're gonna get a story, action, story. Okay, so this will be technically the middle book. I mean, technically it's not, but the way it's seen is the middle book. Okay, so this one is both. It's story and action. that there's and this is Aaron brought this up earlier. This is the debatable one where a lot of people say Wastelands is their favorite. Well, a lot of people also say Wizard of Glass is their favorite. I can say it's definitely one of my top books in the series, Wizard of Glass. But I love all of them. There and I can say without spoilers because I mean the next one is predominantly story, but like it's a lot of the story as a new reader that I wanted. Let's just say, it was stuff that was missing from the story that King was finally like, it's about time. Give me the stuff, kind of thing. I'm looking for the TikTok man. Yeah, because he literally Jake thinks he killed the TikTok man, and that's the line about if Roland was there, he would have known different. It's because Jake had basically shot him in the
Blew his
skull.
face off, and then
Yeah,
the man in
the
black
bullet bounced off.
didn't he put his skin back on?
No, he tears it off. I remember that. He literally reaches over and tears it off.
Tear it off. Yeah.
Nice.
Hold on. I'm looking.
Puts it in his mouth and starts chewing on it.
No, he didn't do all that. He didn't chew on it. That would have been really weird.
That would have been awesome.
Cannibal
TikTok jerky.
Okay, I got TikTok man and Andrew. Hold on.
He's on
Because
deck
okay,
now, man.
yeah,
He's
this
not
this
alive,
is a
he's not
question.
dead.
This is a
Hey,
question I
Marcus.
thought about. Hey, what's up, Marcus? I thought you were anti Stephen King. Get out of here! No, I'm playing. He hates me talking about Stephen King. All right, so I'm at the part with Andrew Quick and the Man in Black. So this is something I could have brought up, but when Andrew Quick sees him, we get the description that and I can read it. It says this stranger standing in front of the hatch wore a short dark jacket belted at the waist, faded denim trouser, and old dusty boots, the boots of a countryman, a range rider, and this comes out of the Man in Black's mouth, but he says, or gunslinger, Andrew, question mark, asking him, hey, I'm just playing, Mark, I'm just playing. But that was something I could ask, that the Man in Black literally was being seen as almost something as Roland. And this is after, TikTok man would have seen Roland come in and take out Gasher and start to see what a real gunslinger looked like. That comparison between the Man in Black and the gunslinger, that yin and yang. Okay, so the conversation between the two.
He looked like an apparition to him, didn't he? Isn't that what he said?
A ghost.
Yeah.
So how far do you live from what was it? What was it? Kansas City?
Topeka.
Topeka?
Topeka. Circumstance.
Marcus, yeah, he's probably close to Topeka.
Yeah, he's fairly close. A lot of Kansas population is on the eastern part, so that's where the majority of people live.
Oh, and that's the one of the kind of influctuations I can say. Walter, or the Man in Black, literally referenced himself as the ageless stranger. That's the constant reader thing that we know is inconsistent with what we get later on in the story. And I don't know why this is supposedly the revised version. You think in the revised version he would have went back and kind of omitted that? Okay. So the conversation between he's basically call me Fannin, Richard Fannin. That's not exactly right though. Maybe, but I reckon it's close enough for government work. He held out a hand, which palm, I love this part, which palm was utterly devoid of lines. They're just smooth Barbie hands. That would have been weird as and it does say it makes Quick cringe or whatever. Yeah, but literally the flap of scalp peeled loose by the low caliber bullet, which had been grooved his skull instead of penetrating it, swung back and forth along strands. It says quickly, however, no longer felt it even, and he asked, "Hey, is that bothering you? It must be here." And it says, Fannin seized the hanging flap and ripped it bristly off of Quick's head, revealing A barely swatch of skull. There was a noisy little heavy cloth tearing quick shrieked. Like he literally was like, "Hey, but is that thing bothering you?" Like, there you go. Let me pull that thing. I don't know, but yeah, I can answer. We are going to get a conclusion to the story. I will say, like, honestly, I always that's why I wanted to read these all separately, because honestly, I thought we got the conclusion of all this in this book. I know Blaine heads to the next book, but I thought we got the riddling like part of it at the, I didn't remember the cut was like this. Let's just say, um, yeah, but that's all I got, guys. I mean, unless y'all want to add any more predictions on stuff y'all. Nah.
No.
All right, guys. Well, that is tonight's episode. In 2 weeks, we will be, Wizard and Glass, same time at 7 p.m. Mountain, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m.
We're gonna look at what book, what part of the book.
The first part.
First part,
Yeah,
we're
it's
breaking this part in twos.
Wizard
Then
and
this will
Glass.
be
Is
a
this one of the
bigger
books?
read or a
Big
longer listen, I guess. This one is well, it's
Big
not
book.
too much bigger because
So we're gonna
Wastelands.
stop at when the train
For
arrives somewhere.
now, this one will be like half through the book. I can tell you exactly the chapter title. It will be page 339, and comparatively, what we just read, the first part was we read up into 305 or something like that.
Okay.
No, I think I got the page numbers wrong. Hold on,
I
339.
think I'm looking at it right now. I think the first 100 pages of the book is the conclusion.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Blaine. All right, let's see. 339 is Come Reap. That's halfway during the book. The constant readers know what that's the reference to. Oh, and I forgot to mention there is a name that comes up, and it's a heavy title into something that's coming up, and it's referenced 3 times during this book. Once Roland mentions it though, but it plays into autumn, but it's Char. Char means death. I want y'all to remember that going into the next book. That's going to be something important. I don't know. That's all I got. But everybody, that is this episode. This was our reading on discussion on the Wastelands. We did both parts. We'll be back here for our part one, Wizards in the Glass. We'll be reading to pages 339, and the chapter title for the audiobook readers is again. It's called Come Reap. That's what it's called. It's called Part 3.
That's where we're
Come
stopping.
Reap.
So stop at part 3.
Okay.
But guys, I want to thank everybody on the panel. Just like every episode, y'all are phenomenal. Make sure if y'all are not subbed up to these, fine fellows below, please click on the links. They are in the description. But that's all I got. I will say goodbye. Long days, pleasant nights, and we will see y'all later. Bye.
Bye.
Everybody.
Yeah.